That was Zeb. He's one of our interns. He's been with us all summer and doing an amazing job. If you haven't gotten a chance to meet him, you should meet him. He's just done amazing. Hey, I'm glad to be with you here today on week 4 of Summer at the River. I think Pastor Matthew has been really encouraging us and challenging us and hopefully moving us into action to see that we are the salt and the light in today's culture. And then no matter how we see the culture and the things that we're viewing it and the concerns that we have, rightfully so, about what's going on around us, that we are called to be salt and light in the world and be difference makers. And so I'm going to start us off with the same passage. It's been our key passage for this series. Just as a reminder, it starts with a word about you, not the person next to you, or not even about me. It's about you. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. I love this. I think it's important for us to catch this. And I think it's a good day for us to think about this, because yesterday at the River Church, we did our first ever Serve Day. If you were part of Serve Day, throw your hand up. Good job, friends. Good job, River Church family. I love you're part of about 120 people went out of the church into the community doing all sorts of projects. I haven't even heard all the stories yet, but I do know that at least 2 locations, possibly 3, the people that we served came out and just cried. Tears of Thanksgiving. So I think we were trying to brighten up the community around us, the culture around us, and to be salt and light. So I just want to say thank you for you. Hey, if for some reason you went straight to your site and didn't come here first in the morning for our prayer huddle and you didn't get one of the cool red serve shirts and you served, I mean, did you really serve on Serve Day if you don't have a shirt to prove it? So you can get your shirt at the office. We've got some still, we haven't put them away in storage yet. You can stop in there today on your way out if you didn't get one of those. But we're just so thankful for you. Thanks for stepping up. You know, we do those things in faith and we plan things and we have no idea if you're going to really be challenged and want to be part of it as well. And you were, and you did. So thank you for that. When I was thinking about what God might call me to share about today, I was thinking about salt and light and how those are descriptors of who we are to be. And I thought of another one. So as we get started, I'm going to add in another scripture as we get started from Proverbs chapter 27. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So I think today as we talk, we're going to talk about salt and light, and we're also going to talk about iron that sharpens iron. From what I understand, at the time the Bible was written, the metal that they referred to as iron in those days, it would indeed sharpen another tool. You could have any iron implement, any iron tool, and you could use it to sharpen another one. And so that's what this is referencing. And I don't know about what things are like at your house, but my husband and I, we've been married 24 years, which means we have like a lot of things in the house that need replaced by now. A lot of our wedding gifts are like 24 years old, and so we don't have very many sharp knives in the knife drawer. Like most of the time, if you come to our house and for some reason we're going to serve something that needs a steak knife, you might be like sawing with it. I really need to break down and just buy some new knives. But my daughter this week decided, I told her, no, every time you get in the mood for your favorite Jimmy John's sandwich doesn't mean I have to go buy it for you. So figure out how to make it at home. And so she was using one of the few knives I have bought recently to replace. She pulled out a sharp paring knife and was cutting tomatoes and cut her finger. Not too bad, it wasn't bad, but it was a shock to her because she didn't know we actually owned any knives sharp enough to cut her skin. It surprised her. I felt a little bit bad about that. But we are called to be iron that sharpens iron. So here's the kind of the framework I want us to get started from. First thing is, someone has sharpened you spiritually. Someone has sharpened you spiritually. Probably a lot of someone's have sharpened you spiritually. And the second thing I want us to think about as we get going is you have what it takes to sharpen someone else spiritually. Most of the time we're okay with number 1. It's number 2 that we have all sorts of reasons to think we're unqualified, I'm not ready, God knows what I've done, He doesn't want to use me. Most of the time we'll accept number 1, but not so much number 2. So for part of today, we're going to talk about each part. And we're going to get started by this, thinking about who's been influential in your spiritual growth? Or another way I like to say it is, what's your spiritual heritage? If you were to tell the stories of your history with God, what are some of the key moments in your history with God? Because I think they're regular everyday moments with regular everyday people. And to prove it, I'm going to share a few of mine, just little snippets. Like, for example, one of my best friends from college. Met her at Indiana Wesleyan, was my teammate. Years later, we live in different states. I can remember still the moment. I had had a loss in my life. I was struggling with a lot of sadness. My sadness had turned into anger. And I'm on the phone with her, like the phone that has the cord and still hooks up to the wall. It's that long ago of a phone call. I can remember standing by in our dining room window telling her, I'm going to tell so-and-so this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to do this. And there was a quiet pause, and she said, no, you're not, Amy. You can't say that. You can't do that. That's bitterness. You're not going to live that way. That's iron that sharpens iron. Just a couple sentences, and I still remember it. It's one of the key moments where she told me, you can be sad, you can have hard stuff that happens in your life, Amy, but you're not going to let it make you a bitter person. You're not going to do that. Another person I think of is my high school volleyball coach. My high school volleyball coach taught me a lot about volleyball, but she also was just a little bit wild and crazy. She liked to play the music really loud. She'd sometimes dance. And you know what she did in my life? She was somebody that I could go to with like a worry besides my parents, somebody else I could go talk to about something I was worried about or stressed out about. But she made it look fun to be a Jesus follower because she would crank the music up and dance a little bit. That's all, just that. But I thought, it looks fun to be an adult that loves Jesus because of how she lived her life. That was a key moment for me. I think about, I've shared this before in detail, but I really think about how shy I was and quiet I was. And my youth pastor kept telling me I needed to speak up, get in front of the crowd and talk about things, that I had stuff to say that people wanted to hear. And our youth group was exploding, went from 50 to 100 to 150. And he wants me to get up in front of all these people. And I'm thinking, I don't know what I got to talk about. But somewhere in there, he viewed what everybody else would see probably as a follower, because I was just trying to hide in my best friend's shadow. Problem was she was 5'2", and I was like 5'10". But I was trying to hide in her shadow because she had a lot of self-confidence going, and I didn't. But where the rest of the world saw a follower, he saw a leader. And he pushed me, and he challenged me, and that's iron that sharpens iron. I think about my husband, Ryan. I think about a few years back when he wasn't happy that his spiritual life wasn't very consistent. So he made a New Year's resolution, and he kept it, because he's one of those people. Like, he makes New Year's resolutions and then actually keeps them. And he kept it, and he said he would not eat, and he would not watch any TV until he had spent time with God every day. And that was 7 years ago. And pretty much every day, we know where to find him in the morning. Doesn't matter what time of morning, we know where to find him. He's going to be out in the same spot reading his Bible. My mom was the same way. Every night, I'd stay up really, really late. But if I went in to give her a kiss and say goodnight, she was always reading her Bible, journaling. My dad left his stuff all over the dining room table. That's light to your whole family. That's light to your whole family to see you do that. That's just regular everyday stuff, though. Doesn't seem monumental in the moment. It's just regular everyday stuff. Last one I'll share is a work supervisor. She pushed me. It was in a hard season, a different hard season of life. Was questioning God's goodness. Wasn't sure he really was as good as I had thought he was my whole childhood. It was my first ever job. She challenged me to go to a women's retreat. I went by myself, and at the end of the women's retreat, she showed up. She was there. The last day, the last hour, just to talk it out with me. Just spent an hour, that's all it was. But that was a time where God cemented some things in my life. She just gave an hour, but that was a huge hour. I still remember it years and years later. Regular moments with regular people. I kind of want to share a few things anonymously about some people here in the River Church that are regular people doing regular things, that are being salt and light, that are being iron that sharpens iron. Like, did you know, for example, did you know that we have nurses and doctors who will ask their patients if they can pray with them right there in those moments? And they can say no. but oftentimes they say yes, and they're just light to those people in some critical moments when they're nervous, and they pray over them and pray with them. I think that's cool. I think we've got police officers and teachers and coaches who do the same thing. Offer to pray with the people that they're serving. That's salt and light. That's regular everyday stuff, though. Did you know that we have somebody who started a Grant County salvation team? God pressed it on their heart, and they made business cards. They're going to festivals and little opportunities in town, made a booth where people can come up just to be prayed over and to hear about God's life-changing work and how he can change their lives. That's somebody that you're sitting next to right now. That's somebody in this room right now. Did you know that we have college students who give up their study time? Probably not that hard. They probably don't care about their study time. But I'm thinking of one particular college student who gives up 2 nights a week. That's 2 nights of intramurals, 2 nights of studying, 2 nights of hanging out with whoever, 2 nights a week to help lead junior high life groups. That's pretty cool. Just put it on their weekly schedule and doing that? That's pretty awesome. That's salt and light. Do you know we have electricians and plumbers and trade workers and people who, if I call them and say, hey, I don't know if this is something we can help with or not, they say, I'll go to the house and figure it out. And they try and help people with the trade skills that they have to be salt and light. We got people bringing neighbor kids to church every single week. We got adults bringing other adults to church who can't get rides to church every single week. We've got moms who are coming in during the week to help do things behind the scenes just to multiply the leadership that we have here. We have people who already have awesome friends who are hosting life groups and leading Rooted because they know that some of you haven't found your awesome friends yet. And they want to create a space for you to be able to connect with other Christians because they know it's important to you. It's regular, everyday moments. And these people are sitting among you and sitting in the room with you now. So I ask you this. As you're thinking today, I think it's important for you to think about who's been influential in your spiritual growth. Maybe you're a note taker. You might want to put some things on your phone or write them out on a card. And for you to just jot a couple names so that later today you can go back and think about that even more. What are those regular everyday moments from regular people that influenced you in big ways spiritually? And I thought of this text for us this morning. We're going to focus in on Luke chapter 5. One day Jesus was teaching, and Pharisees and teachers of the law were sitting there. They had come from every village of Galilee and from Judea and Jerusalem. And the power of the Lord was with Jesus to heal the sick. Some men came carrying a paralyzed man on a mat and tried to take him to the house to lay him before Jesus. When they could not find a way to do this because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and lowered him on his mat through the tiles into the middle of the crowd, right in front of Jesus. When Jesus saw their faith, he said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." Now, you probably know this story if you've been following Jesus at all. It's in a lot of the kids' Bibles. It's a great key story of our faith. But I want to slow down and just think about it for a minute, because those guys that were carrying their paralyzed friend to have a moment with Jesus, they thought they needed one skill: physical strength. We just got to get him from here because he can't get himself there. We just got to carry him to there. They were willing to give their physical strength. So they carry him to Jesus. Problem: they get there, the place is packed out. It's too crowded. They can't find an entrance to get him to Jesus. I like what happens next. I'm going to call it stubbornness. The Bible calls it perseverance. They weren't going to give up. They were going to make sure that they got their friend all the way to have this moment with Jesus. So they start problem solving. Now they're using their mental strength and their problem solving to try and figure out how they're going to get this guy to Jesus. I think it's quite funny that the solution they come up with is to cut a hole in the roof. Just imagine with me for a moment if while I'm talking, we start to see some sharp tools coming through the ceiling. Wouldn't it be a little bit distracting? Pastor Matthew, you should feel good. Even Jesus' crowds got very distracted while he was talking sometimes, maybe for this reason. There's sharp tools of some sort. Did they bring these tools with them? I doubt it. They thought they just needed to carry their friend there. They find some kind of crude tool, and they're walking around on the roof. Jesus is talking with no microphone, no sound system, to a big crowd of people, and you can't tell me they didn't hear the footsteps all on the roof. And you can't tell me that they didn't hear them talking, because what does it say? They wanted to make sure they cut a hole so he would land right in front of Jesus. Like, what if they did all this work and he lands in the back corner? That doesn't help them much. They got to cut the hole in the right spot. So they're walking around, talking on the roof, start cutting through the roof, and where's the debris going? Well, gravity tells you where it's going. It's falling down. While Jesus is talking, there's pieces of the ceiling and the roof falling down around him. I wonder what happens when the big chunk finally gets cut, When they finally finish the square, is it like boom, like this big ceiling tile in front of Jesus? I don't know. And I also wonder if Jesus kept talking or if he just patiently waited, like, come on, boys, get the job done, And then in the little kids' Bible that we had at home, he's like coming down on ropes that are evenly stretched out with a stretcher. He's coming down perfectly level. I'm thinking these boys didn't come with a rope. I don't know what they actually used. I'm hoping they didn't just tip him down and be like, good luck, and drop him down. But I also think maybe it was kind of a little bit more like, when you see a rope at the end of a helicopter and something spinning at the end. I wonder if it was a little bit more like that. He's coming down and he's swaying and the crowd's gasping. Which way is he going? Finally, he lands in front of Jesus. And they lean over. Now they've done their part. They finally got their friend to have an interaction with Jesus. They did their part. But you got to kind of wonder what happens when they're leaning over. The whole is he mad at us? Did he get to finish his sermon? How's he feeling about this right now? Was he just getting to the best part of the sermon and now we've interrupted him? How's he feeling about this? I want to hit pause for a minute. If you want to be salt and light in the world, you want to be iron that sharpens iron? Here's one thing you might want to accept right out the gate. It might be messy. It might be messy. The next day, those same guys might have been able to rethink their plan and been like, what we could have done? Instead of cutting a hole in the roof, we could have tapped a bunch of people on their shoulders, asked them to just step us to the side, and walked right in the door. Like hindsight's 20/20. Maybe the next day they had a better plan that wouldn't have been so messy. But on the day that they had to execute the plan, it was a little messy. When you are going to be salt and light to today's culture, you need to accept the fact that it might be a little bit messy. Not only that, but in order to keep doing it, the messy requires faith. All those little steps they could have stopped, but they really, truly, at the bottom of their hearts, they really believed that getting their friend to have one interaction with Jesus was going to be life-changing. So it required them activating their faith. Every step they could have bailed, and they didn't bail because they really believed that if they could just get their friend to have a moment with Jesus, it would be life-changing. Isn't that what we believe, right? So are we willing to do the messy part? Are we willing to do the part that requires our faith? Or will we stop, get tripped up? Will we want only just a smooth project? Will we want it just to be smooth in order for us to be salt and light? Are we willing for it to be messy? Here's something I want us to think about. We have to stop waiting for the sure-proof plan. We have to stop waiting for the well-oiled, smooth, no way it's going to fail plan to bring our friends to the Lord. And we just have to do it. And it might be a little messy, and we've got to do it anyway. I want to be salt and light to the culture, and I'm not always winning at this 100%. So don't think that because I'm up here I've got it figured out. I don't. I think about how I should have done things different. I could have done things different. But I also recognize that the culture is the way it is because it needs us. It needs us to have our faith activated. It needs us to be out there partnering with the gospel like we see in Philippians chapter 1. I thank my God every time I remember you, and all my prayers for all of you. I always pray with joy. Because of why? Why do I have joy? Because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it out into completion to the day of Christ Jesus. You get a chance when you want to bring your friends to Jesus, when you want to be salt and light, you want to pray with those people at work, when you want to show up for that life group, whatever it is, when you want to do those things, you're partnering in somebody's spiritual heritage story. You're being a part of this spiritual influence in their life. You get to do that. And that is so awesome. You don't have to finish the work. You don't have to figure out how to make it all work. You can have confidence that God will finish it. You don't have to know how to fix it all. But you do need to recognize that your part matters. We oftentimes try to downgrade to think that what I'm doing doesn't really matter. And Pastor Matthew spoke in the first week of this series about the domino effect. And imagine a whole big alley of dominoes all set up perfectly, and if you pull one out, it's not going to go. It's not going to work. And so your part really does matter. But you don't have to have the whole thing figured out. It can be a little messy, and you can just do your part, speaking life, being present, bringing God into the conversation. I was thinking about this whole idea. I think we get so tripped up on this. We think it's not that big of a deal. Like those guys taking the paralyzed friend to Jesus, they probably thought, no big deal. I'm just carrying him. Turned out to be a pretty big deal. Really life-changing deal for him. But they could have just said that was no big deal before it happened and decided not to do it. But your part matters. I was thinking about a conversation between God and Ezekiel in the Old Testament. They're talking about the state of Jerusalem, the culture. God is talking to Ezekiel about all the things he's not happy with happening in Jerusalem. He's really not happy with these things happening in Jerusalem. And he's listing off these things. Listen in with me and see if any of it sounds familiar to you for today's culture. God's telling Ezekiel that his concerns with Jerusalem are that there's division between children and their parents, that the fatherless and the widows are oppressed instead of being supported, that there's violent crime and murder all around, that God's ways are mocked and his name is taken in vain, that women are being violated, marriages are no longer sacred, children are being abused, that people are selfish and they're taking advantage of their neighbors to get ahead, that chaos is abounding, that people are grabbing for what they can have for themselves, even if it means they watch other people suffer. That dishonest gain has become normal, and that the needs of the poor and the needy are being overlooked. And God says all that to Ezekiel, and it leads him to this. In verse 30, I searched for a man among them to repair the wall and stand in the gap before me on behalf of the land so that I should not destroy it, but I found no one. But I found no one. I have this Life Application Bible. If you're looking for a good Bible, man, I've had this one, I don't know, since when? Since 2005. I've had this Bible. And it's like this part is the text, and all of this is how it applies to my life. I love it. I just looked it up last night. Costs a little bit of money. Put a few dollars back every week for a while. Buy it for yourself. It's about $50 if you want a leather one. I think you can get a hardback one for cheaper. Man, is it awesome. I wanted to share with you something at the bottom of my Bible in the life application part about this verse and about this wall, repairing the wall, standing in the gap. It said, the wall spoken of here is not made of stones, but of faithful people united in their efforts to resist evil. This wall was in disrepair because there was no one who could lead the people back to God. The feeble attempts to repair the gap through religious rituals or messages based on opinion rather than God's will were as worthless as whitewash, only covering the real problems. What the people really needed was spiritual reconstruction. I like this part. This is where it turns it to me and you. In the life application, it says, you can join with others to stand in the gap and make a difference for God in the world. The end of that verse, though, it said God looked and he found no one, right? Man, heaven forbid he looks at Grant County and says that. I don't want that to be said of our community. So for all the English teachers in the room that are going to cringe at this, don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. That's our call to action. Don't do nothing. You want to be salt, you want to be light, you want to be iron that sharpens iron? Do something, but just don't do nothing. This is a book that my husband pretty much reads every book before I read it, and then he passes on to me his favorite books. This is a book called One at a Time. Oh, I think I got a picture of it. There it is. You can write it down if you want to take my advice. Kyle Idleman, I read about everything he writes. We both do. Ryan and I do. But this book is exceptionally good. It's called One at a Time. Anybody out here already, before I even tell you why you should buy it, thinks they would buy it and they would read it? Firsthand, boom. Rhonda, it's yours. I got a copy for you. I'm going to toss it. There you go. Such a good book. Buy it. And Rhonda, your challenge is you got to read it and share it with somebody else. That's the only assignment. Such a good book. It just humanizes what this looks like to be salt and light. And I knew I was going to love it when chapter 7 is entitled One Party at a Time, and it starts out like this. Quick, what does God have in common with the Beastie Boys? Back in 1986, the Beastie Boys told everyone to fight for their right to party. Seemed a little intense, but I guess they were really into partying. Back in Leviticus 23, God told everyone to party or he would kill them. Also very intense, but I guess God is really into partying. Both God and the Beastie Boys believe that partying is a right and a responsibility. It goes on to talk about all the celebrations in the Old Testament and all the times that Jesus gathered with people simply in situations that brought people joy. And it talks about how when we are salt and light, we bring joy to situations. And we party with people, we have fun with people, and then we lead them to what is the ultimate joy, a life-changing relationship with Jesus. I'm telling you, this is it. Even if you read 1 or 2 or 3 chapters, you're going to get some instructions and you're going to feel like you're equipped to go and be salt and light. So I encourage you to look into this book. Because you are the salt, and you are the light. And you are not meant to be hidden. You are the partnership of the gospel in other people's lives. That's what you are. Not me, you. Not the person next to you, you. You are the partnership of the gospel in somebody else's life. You are on somebody else's spiritual heritage list. You are the iron that sharpens iron. That's good work, so don't do nothing. I'm going to take us back to the very beginning scripture, but from the Message. So we can see our key scripture for this passage, just worded a little differently. Here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. I feel like I'm telling you something you should already know. I feel like I'm trying to give you confidence about something that you already should know, that you're equipped to do this. And so I don't know if this is going to be something that I get in trouble for later. I didn't ask permission, and now my boss is sitting right here to my right. So I'm going to show a clip of a famous Saturday Night Live sketch. And if that's not allowed at the River Church, then it has been really fun working with you guys, and I love you a lot, and I wish you the best. But I want to play just a couple minutes. I'm going to end on a light note. I want you to tune in and check this out for a few minutes. All right. Some daily affirmation to a guy who probably didn't quite need it. He already knew that. So I'm going to now put you through a little exercise. Because here's what I think. I think you need to tell yourself, I am useful. I'm useful. In God's kingdom, I am useful. I have something to offer. Also, I think you need to tell yourself, I am capable. I am capable of being salt and light. I'm useful, I am capable, and not only that, but this is my assignment. This is my assignment, to be salt and light and to be iron that sharpens iron. So work with me here a little bit. I'm Stuart Smalley, and you're Michael Jordan. You will repeat after me. I will say it, and then you will say it. Are you ready? Okay. I am useful. I am capable. This is my assignment. Would you stand up as we worship together and let that stuff sink in? You're useful, you're capable, and you have an assignment. Let's worship together.